So what happens when you take a classic creature of Gothic horror, castles, bats, fog, and you drag them into the rain-soaked, neon-lit streets of a hard-boiled detective story? Well, that's what we're digging into today. Let's see how a classic monster gets a whole new set of teeth.
And just like that, we are dropped right into the case. No fangs, no coffins, just a dame on a dark street corner wrapped in fur and what the detective calls expensive worry. This is not your grandfather's Dracula. This is something else entirely.
All right, so let's break down the setup. You know how it goes. Every great noir story kicks off with a client walking through a detective's door, bringing a problem that just smells like trouble. And this one? Oh yeah, it's no exception.
Okay, meet our players. On one side, you've got Nathan Crow. His office door tells you everything you need to know about him. The word discretion is half peeled off, which, in his own words, makes it more honest than most things in this city. And on the other side, Lucy Westenra, a name that just screams ships and drawing rooms, a woman so polished she makes Crow's office look even grittier just by standing in it.
And there it is, the hook. She doesn't want him to find a missing husband or a stolen necklace. Nope, she wants him to find her future murderer. As Crow himself says, that's one step ahead of my usual line of work. You can just tell this case is going to be strange from the word go.
And here's where you see just how much the system is failing her. The police, they dismiss her fears as just hysteria. The doctors, their explanations are frankly insulting. A rodent? Seriously? Crow's reaction says it all. What kind of rat stands on two legs and knows surgery? She's clearly being attacked, drained of life, but because the rational world has no rational explanation, it just decides she must be crazy.
So, of course, we get our initial suspect list, all filtered through Crow's cynical worldview. You've got the Lord with his jumpy, nervous energy, the loud American friend, and the meticulous, kind of overbearing doctor. They all say they're worried about her, but none of them really believe her story, leaving her totally and completely alone.
The setting itself is practically a character in this. The Westenra Hotel is all marble lobbies and string quartets, opulent, sterile. But it's also a place with secrets, including a clinic for the nervous and the wealthy on the second floor. Lucy's room is just perfectly neat, this desperate attempt to create some kind of order while her world is spinning into pure chaos.
And this brings us to the turning point. This is the moment where Crow's investigation leaves the world of clues and fingerprints behind and steps into a realm of shadows and, well, ancient fears.
So Crow's on watch, he's armed, he thinks he's ready, but he is completely unprepared for this. He doesn't just see some intruder, he feels it. An unnatural, paralyzing cold that freezes him to the spot. He can't move, he can't speak. All he can do is watch as this form that's not quite man, not quite mist, leans over Lucy. And then, just like that, it's gone. Right through a locked window like it was never there.
And then, enter Professor Van Helsing. He's not a cop, he's not a PI, he's something older. And when he opens his case, it's not filled with detective gear. It's filled with folklore. We're talking garlic, crucifixes, and stakes. He's the one guy who looks at all these impossible events and doesn't see madness. He sees a pattern.
This is Crow's reaction, and let's be honest, it's our reaction too, right? This is a guy who deals in concrete facts, in criminals who have business cards and lawyers. Van Helsing's whole theory sounds like something you'd read in a cheap tabloid. The entire story really just hangs on this single moment of disbelief.
And that right there is Van Helsing's perfect chilling response. I mean, that line is the absolute heart of this story's theme. The idea that ancient evil doesn't just vanish, it puts on a modern suit. It can exist in a five-star hotel just as easily as it can in some crumbling Carpathian castle. This is the moment. This is what shatters Crow's skepticism for good. His modern weapon, the .45 Colt, it does nothing. But a vial of holy water, a symbol of ancient faith, it actually burns the creature. That sizzle, that smoke, that's undeniable proof. The rules of his world just don't apply anymore.
So, what does this all mean? It means they can't just react anymore. They have to go on the offensive. They have to hunt the hunter and set a trap for a monster whose very existence just defies all logic.
Okay, so here's the plan. And what's so cool about it is this fusion of two worlds. You have Lucy, the quote-unquote damsel, who becomes the bait. The room is fortified with ancient charms. And then you have Crow, the modern detective, armed with both his trusty pistol and a primitive wooden stake. It's this desperate, brilliant hybrid strategy. His arrival isn't loud or monstrous. No, it's subtle and way more terrifying. The pressure in the room just changes. The shadows themselves seem to melt together into the shape of a man. He isn't some snarling beast. He's an aristocrat, compelling and perfectly dressed, which, somehow makes him even more frightening.
And right here, we get a true sense of his immense age and his power. He dismisses Crow not as a threat, but as an annoyance. He talks about eating kings the way other people talk about their morning coffee. It's just this chilling reminder of exactly what they're up against.
The fight is brutal, and it is over fast. Dracula just easily overpowers Crow. But the turning point? It isn't a punch or a bullet. It's Lucy. She screams his true, ancient name, and for just a split second, it stuns him. And that's all the time they need for Crow to fire his gun and for Van Helsing to get him the stake.
His end is just as unnatural as his life was. Men fall, they bleed. Dracula, he doesn't. He just comes apart, reduced to dust by a force that's even older than he is. An impossible wind sweeps the remains away, leaving nothing but a shocking silence and the smell of ozone and old evil.
So the physical threat is gone. But in any good noir story, just killing the bad guy doesn't fix the broken world he came from. The real darkness, that lingers. This really highlights that classic noir theme of the hidden truth, right? The world gets a neat, tidy, and completely false explanation. A madman, a fire. It all makes sense. But Crow is now stuck with this fantastic, terrifying truth. He knows what really walks the night.
These are Crow's final words to Lucy as she leaves the city. It's not a perfectly happy ending, of course not. The trauma is still there, that shadow is long, but he offers her this tiny sliver of hope. She escaped, she's free, and in his world, that counts as a victory.
And this is it. The final, cynical truth that settles over Crow. He defeated a literal monster, a bloodsucker with actual fangs. But in doing that, his eyes have been opened to all the other monsters, the ones in expensive suits who can drink a person dry without ever touching their throat. In a weird way, Dracula was just more honest about his hunger.
So that's where we end up. They stopped the creature of the night, the one from all the old stories. But the story leaves us with a much more modern and maybe a much more difficult question. What do you do about the evil that wears a smile, carries a briefcase, and never, ever breaks the law?